As we know that in the cardiovascular segment, now the concept of prevention of disease is now very well growing. That everyone is trying that the before happening of a disease, it should be prevented. So that is the chances of morbidity and mortality is very less. So from your experience so far, how you will implement this kind of the practice, this kind of the concept in your practice as well?
I think we all been saying that prevention is better than cure, and it's like genius always will prevent the disease and so on and so forth. But when it comes to implementation, it is becoming extremely difficult. So exactly what needs to be done, what exactly needs to be done, all those things are not very clear in Indian context. So some of the efforts of Cardiological Society of India has been to simplify that. And one of the things that we have come up with is we have simplifiedly said that to prevent heart attacks and heart diseases, you need to say no to 6S. So those 6S's are salt, sugar, smoking, sedentary lifestyle, stress, and saturated and trans fat. If you say no to these 6S, automatically you will prevent a lot of heart diseases, including hypertension, heart failure, mainly coronary artery disease, heart attacks, and angina, as well as atrial fibrillation.
Okay. So definitely, as you shared that regarding this major factors like the dietary factors and lifestyle factors, if we can modify, then there is a prevention of the cardiovascular disease can be better as of now the current condition. Now there is one condition also is there regarding the arrhythmic disorder of atrial fibrillation, where the where its complication of stroke, its prevention is also very much required. So when the patient with diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, then the stroke prevention atrial fibrillation, the new term as a SPAF, is now very much common for the treatment part. For the stroke prevention in atrial fibrillation, there are from the since of the years the oral anticoagulants, and now followed by there is antiplatelets, and now the newer generation of oral anticoagulants are available. So in your practice, sir, you have come across all three molecules one by one. So what you have found the clinical data of this particular drug and how it's helpful in your clinical practice as well?
So I think clearly atrial fibrillation is a disease where atria is chaotically contracting. It's not contracting in uniform fashion, and there is a kind of a recess, which is kind of an appendage structure that is not useful as such to heart function. That is called the left atrial appendage. There is stasis because since atria is not contracting, there could be formation of clots inside that. Clots always happen when there is stasis. When the blood is not pumped forward, there is stasis, immediately clot forms. The problem with atrial fibrillation is when such a thing happens suddenly, and then patient can come back to normal rhythm immediately. In such a situation, suddenly a clot may form, and immediately once upon return to the sinus rhythm and otherwise also, this clot can embolize to any part of the body. If it goes to any of the brain arteries, it produces what is known as stroke or fallish. So stroke can be devastating because at times stroke cannot be completely curable, and it leaves a lot of damage and a lot of morbidity to the patient. So stroke has to be prevented. So one easy, because everything is happening because of a stasis and clot formation, it has been traditionally been oral anticoagulation. That means blood thinners. You thin the blood so that clot forms less, has been the standard care of therapy. But the problem in Indian setting is that not many patients are educated. There is a serious problem of monitoring because this particular drug, the oral anticoagulations, have a serious problem of they have a very narrow therapeutic range. So that means there is an effect range and there is a complication range. So here the effect is prevent clot formation and stroke, and the complication is bleeding. So there is a narrow window between preventing a clot and bleeding to happen. So this drug needs a constant monitoring of a blood test by a blood test known as INR. So this is an international normal ratio which can be blood tests are available across the country, but the problem in India is that across the country the tests are not standardized and not uniform. So that has been a serious problem. We have a lot of patients who come back with us who do not maintain themselves in a good therapeutic window on INR, and there's a lot of patients who despite having maintained an INR develop a stroke, and a lot of patients come with the INR which is very high, and some of them do present with bleeding complications. So this has been a problem more so in our country, where I think patients are less educated and they don't follow the advice and they don't get their INR done. Even at times they get the INR done, at times the INRs are erroneous, and because this particular test lab to lab variation is there. So this has been a serious problem. So the advantage of this newer oral anticoagulation is that they are shown to be slightly more effective than the traditional agents, and they are shown to be safe. But the major problem in our country is the cost. They are slightly expensive, clearly much more expensive than the ones that we have been using. But regarding the efficacy part, they are well proven in large randomized controlled trials.
Okay, so I think it's a very well point is covered the practical issues with the vitamin K antagonist and how the NOACs can be a better option for the and against the vitamin K antagonist. So now, sir, if the choice is given to you that you have to select one of the NOACs, as of now 3 NOACs are available, rivaroxaban, dabigatran and apixaban, then how will you select the what are the selection criteria so that you can give this drug to the patients?
So as of now, it is very difficult to say which one is better and which one is not better. I think it will be as of now, there is no recommendation. All the 3 are good if you go by the guidelines and criteria and the trials that they have been done. Across the trial, people try to compare, but it's a difficult comparison, and it's often meaningless if you compare across the trial, because the populations are different, their risk groups are different. So as of now, I would say that it will be an individual choice, and maybe once a day therapy, this could be a rivaroxaban, could be some advantage. It offers some advantage where compliance becomes slightly better. So apart from that, I would not say that one is superior to the other.
Sure. Okay, so I think it's a very in detail discussion regarding the stroke prevention and atrial fibrillation. So what are the current challenges with the older anticoagulants, and now what are the advantages of the newer oral anticoagulants? So there is no head-to-head comparison against all 3 NOACs are available. So it may be have some individual criteria to give the such kind of NOACs to the AF patient for the stroke prevention. So I think with this note we are ending our discussion. So thanks a lot, Dr. Ramakrishnan, for providing your valuable comments and opinions.